The alarm screamed like sirens in a war zone. Blood streaked across the white tile in thick, uneven swats, like someone had painted panic onto the floor. Then the lead surgeon crumpled without warning, his body hitting the ground with a bone-deep thud that seemed to suck all the air out of the trauma bay. For one breathless second, everything froze. The nurses, the residents, the techs, 20 pairs of eyes locked on the figure standing in the corner. The rookie paramedic, the one they joked about during coffee breaks, the one they called too green for real trauma. Harper Lane stood perfectly still, her scrubs already soaked in crimson, hair plastered to her forehead. Her heart pounded so loud she could feel it in her teeth, but her hands, they weren't shaking. Someone whispered, sharp and terrified, "She's not even supposed to be here." Another alarm blared. The patient's vitals flatlined in a piercing monotone. Harper stepped forward, slow, deliberate, like someone walking into enemy fire. Her fingers curled around the scalpel, the cold steel flashing under fluorescent lights. Every rule she'd memorized screamed at her to stop, to wait, to let someone, anyone with an empty take over. But there was no one else. In that breath between chaos and decision, a promise she'd made long ago surged back. Not again, never again. The clock ticked, the flat line wailed, and Harper Lane, the rookie everyone had mocked, raised the blade. Have you ever been underestimated? Only to prove everyone wrong when it mattered most? Share your story in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more real life heroes who rise when seconds count. 6 hours earlier, the trauma bay was quiet. The kind of quiet that buzzed with fluorescent lights and smelled faintly of burnt coffee. Harper Lane sat alone at the corner table, her hands moving with practiced precision. Trauma shears, sharp, IV kit, sealed, drug box, organized so neatly it could have passed inspection by a drill surgeon. She checked everything twice. Then a third time, it wasn't nerves, it was a habit, a survival habit. Don't freeze up today, rookie. The voice snapped through the silence like a whip. Marco Delgado, leaning against the vending machine with that lazy grin everyone knew. Arms crossed, tone dripping with condescension. "We can't have you going deer in headlights again." Laughter rippled through the room. Not cruel, just dismissive, like she was an accessory, not a teammate. Harper didn't flinch, didn't rise to the bait. She just kept her hands moving, sliding a tourniquet into place, her face unreadable. Inside, though, the words stung like salt on an old wound. Too quiet, too slow, too green. Her thumb traced a faint scar on her left wrist, a habit she hated and couldn't stop. A whisper of another life, another battlefield. Lane solid, Camilla offered, her voice warm but tired. Give her time. Time? Marcus coughed. She had 6 months. Still jumps when radio squawks. This ain't a library, sweetheart. People die out there. Harper looked up then, just for a second. Gray eyes steady, unblinking. "I know what's on the line, Marco." Something in her voice made the room pause. Not long, just enough for Marco's grin to falter. Then it happened. Dispatch tones. Sharp, urgent. Code red. Mass casualty incident. Interstate 95. Mile marker 47. Multiple vehicle accident with entrapment. All available units respond immediately. The room exploded into motion. Gear bags snatched up, chairs scraping, boots pounding towards the bay. Harper sipped her kit, slung it over her shoulder. As she stepped into the corridor, the scar on her wrist burned like a brand, pulling old ghosts to the surface. She whispered something no one heard, something she hadn't said in years. Not today. And for the first time all night, her hands stopped shaking. The scene was chaos, pure, merciless chaos. Red and blue lights lashed through the night, cutting across a highway that looked like a battlefield. Three vehicles lay in ruin, a sedan wrapped tight around the guardrail. An SUV flipped belly up. It shattered the windows, bleeding glass across wet asphalt, and a pickup crumpled like paper. Steam hissed from twisted hoods. Gasoline leaked in dark rivers, shimmering under the glare of emergency lights. Harper Lane jumped from the rig and landed hard on slick pavement. Boots splashing in an oil slick puddle. The smell hit first: burned rubber, gasoline, metallic tinge of blood. Her heart hammered in rhythm with the distant wail of more sirens racing to the scene. She trained for this, dreamed of it, dreaded it. Jesus, Margot muttered beside her, pulling on gloves as another round of dispatch chatter crackled over the radio. This is a goddamn parking lot massacre. Firefighters worked like the frantic surgeons with jaws of life, sparks slicing through twisted steel. State troopers shouted over the storm of noise, trying to push Gawker's back. Every sound was an emergency in itself, alarming, demanding, relentless. Harper counted bodies automatically, like scanning a checklist she never wanted to use. 1, 2, 3 on the ground. 2 more are still trapped. A sixth slumped against the pickup, blood painting his shirt in a grotesque pattern. Her stomach tightened. Her hands didn't shake, not yet. They hit the first patient, a woman in her 40s, dazed but conscious. A river of red running from her temple. Head injury, stable airway. Marco took the lead, barking vitals while Harper wrapped gauze around her head with steady, precise movements. Next one's bad, a firefighter yelled, hauling open a door that shouldn't have opened. Chest trauma, no response. Marco's head whipped toward Harper. Load and go, now. Minutes blurred. They moved like muscle memory, lifting, strapping, compressing. By the time they slammed the rig doors, Harper's gloves were slick with blood. The second patient, the man, looked worse under the harsh ambulance lights. Purple lips, breathing shallow. Each bump of the road felt like time cracking apart. Harper started an IV. Her voice clipped as she called out vitals. BP dropping, heart struggling. Every number screamed what she already knew. He wouldn't make it without a surgeon. Fast. Hang on, she whispered. Even though he couldn't hear her, just hang on. The hospital swallowed them in fluorescent lights and chaos. The ER was gridlocked, stretchers everywhere, gurneys crammed into hallways. Nurses sprinted past with crash carts. The scent of antiseptic barely masked the copper bite of blood. Where do you want him? Marco called as they wheeled the patient in, his voice almost drowned by the storm of alarms. Trauma 3, Dr. Collins snapped without looking up. His scrubs were sweat-soaked, his eyes glassy from too many hours and too little sleep. I'll be there in 5. 5 minutes turned to 10. Harper stood by the bed, watching the monitor bleed bad news in green lines. BP circling the drain. Oxygen saturation is plummeting. She'd already maxed fluids, nothing left in the bag of tricks. Where the hell is Collins? Marco paced like a man on fire. The fluorescent light made his face look carved from stone. Before Harper could answer, alarms ripped through the air from Trauma 2. Not the steady rhythmic beep of vitals, but the sharp metallic scream of code blue. Collins just went down, a voice shouted, collapsed in the middle of an open abdomen. The words punched the air out of the room. Marco stumbled towards the doorway, catching the chaos spilling from the next bay. Nurses yelling, another surgeon sprinting in, then back to their own patient, pale and drowning in silence. His pulse was a whisper now, his lips a shade of gray that screamed too late. Harper's eye dropped to the man's hand. A wedding ring clung to his blood-streaked finger. His wallet had spilled from the gurney during the rush, photographs scattered like leaves, 2 little kids, toothless grins, popsicle-stained cheeks. Daddy's whole world staring back at her. Her throat burned. Her pulse roared. She heard the old words like ghosts. One more life, Harper, just one more. For half a heartbeat, she froze, just like Marco said she would, just like every joke in the break room promised. Then the freeze shattered. She moved, quiet, deliberate, pulling the supply cart closer with a scrape that sounded like thunder in the silence between alarms. Her fingers found the intubation kit, the chest tube tray, surgical clamps, each metal instrument cold as bone. Harper, Marco rasped. What the hell are you doing? She didn't answer, couldn't. The roar in her ears wasn't the ear anymore. It was the rotor blades, distant gunfire, the thick heat of desert sand. A canvas tent with a man screaming on a stretcher, and no one coming to help. Harper! Marco's voice cracked this time. You're a paramedic. You can't. This is. Her gray eyes lifted to his, and for the first time all night, Marco shut up. Because whatever he saw there, the steel, the storm, it wasn't rookie fear. It was war. Call the OR, she said, voice level as scalpel. Tell them I'm bringing him up. Marco stared like he didn't recognize her. Maybe he didn't. Harper, he tried, but she was already snapping on a fresh pair of gloves, rolling up her sleeves. Her scar, small, pale, and jagged, caught the harsh light like a battle flag. Her hands didn't shake, not when she picked up the tools, not when she slid the tube down his throat with flawless precision, not when the monitor screamed and then quieted, just for a moment, as if the entire room was holding its breath. The trauma bay smelled like antiseptic and copper, the kind of smell that clung to your hair and skin long after the shift ended. Monitors screamed from every corner, alarms stacking like sirens in her head. Harper Lane stood frozen for half a breath, the patient on the gurney pale as wax, blood pumping through soaked bandages in deep rhythmic spurts. His blood pressure was crashing, his heart rate flickering like a bad radio signal. 10 minutes, maybe less, before his body quit. Marco, Harper said, forcing his voice to stay level as she tore open a sterile pack. I need you to hold pressure, hard. Don't let go unless I tell you. Marco didn't argue, not this time. His hands pressed into the wound, trembling under his gloves. What are you doing, Harper? Buying him time. The trauma bay door slammed open. Dr. Olivia Hayes appeared, breathless, streaked with someone else's blood. She scanned the scene, eyes lugging on Harper, the paramedic standing where no paramedic belonged. What the hell is going on? Dr. Hayes demanded. Patients crashing, Harper replied, voice clipped. Blunt abdominal trauma, internal bleed, looks like hepatic artery. You're not qualified to. If I wait, he dies. Harper didn't look up. She was sliding on gloves, her fingers steady, her mind strangely quiet. Hayes stepped forward like she might physically stop her. You so much as nicked the wrong structure. Then he dies anyway. Harper cut in, still under calm, and you explained to his kids why. For half a second, Harper thought Hayes would drag her away. Then Hayes froze, chest rising and falling as alarms wailed around them. She stayed, watching. Harper made the first incision. The scalpel hissed against flesh, and the smell hit, iron and iodine, mingling into something metallic and alive. Marco flinched. Hayes didn't breathe. A different smell collapsed into Harper's memory. Burnt sand, diesel fumes, the rot of blood under Afghan sun. Rotor blades hammered the sky. A soldier's body jerked under her hands, chest blown open by shrapnel. She's the only one left in the tent. No surgeons, no backup. Just Harper and the dying. Clamp, she said now, dragging herself back to the present. Marco fumbled but obeyed, passing the instrument into her waiting hand. The bleed gushed bright and fast, the color of life spilling out faster than she could catch it. Come on, come on. The monitor gave a long, angry beep, Flatline threat. Hayes took a step forward, ready to take over, then stopped when Harper's hand moved with perfect precision. Not frantic, not guessing, working like someone who'd been here before. Where did you learn to? Hayes started. Not now, Harper snapped. Suction. Marco was already moving, shoving the suction tube into the cavity. Blood slurped away, and there it was, the torn vessel, pulsing like a tiny furious heart. Harper's breath caught. Her fingers locked on the clamp and snapped it shut. The gush slowed to a trickle. For the first time in 10 minutes, the room exhaled. The monitor blip, still weak but rising. BP's climbing, Marco said. Disbelief thickened his voice. 110 over 70. 115. Harper ignored him. Her hands were still working, blazing sutures, knot after knot, neat and tight. She didn't think, didn't breathe. She just moved. The world narrowed to thread and steel, and the faint rhythmic beep of borrowed time. When the last suture cinch closed, Harper dropped the needle holder into the tray. Her gloves were slick with blood. Her chest heaved. The patient was alive for now. She stepped back slowly, the roar in her ears finally breaking into the sound of voices, movement, life rushing back into the room. Dr. Hayes was staring at her, not angry, not even shocked anymore. Something else, something almost like an awe. Who are you? She asked softly. Harper peeled off her gloves one finger at a time, her pulse finally breaking through the calm. For a long moment, she just stared at the blood in her hands. Then she said it, voice barely above the hum of the monitors. I used to be a medic in the army. Silence settled over the room, heavy and electric. Every eye turned to Harper, not the rookie, not the quiet girl from Montana. The woman who just saved a life when everyone else froze. The hospital was quiet now, but it wasn't peace, just a hollow calm after a storm. The fluorescent lights hummed above Harper as she sat in the empty break room, finishing her incident report. The words on the page felt unreal, like something pulled from a war story rather than a Tuesday night at Metro General. Her hands weren't shaking anymore. They should have been. They had been steady when she made the incision, when she clamped the artery, when she sutured like her life depended on it, because someone else's did. Now, with the weight gone, her fingers felt heavy, as if every nerve was waking up all at once. Outside the window, the rain had slowed to a drizzle, streaking faint silver lines down the glass. Harper stared through them, hoping to slip up unnoticed. She didn't want the questions, the stares. The stories are already mutating in whispered tones down sterile halls. Word was out. She could feel it in the way people had looked at her when she walked through the ER earlier. Heads turning, conversation stopped mid-sentence. Every step towards staff lockers felt like waking under a spotlight. She reached for her jacket, praying she could vanish into the night before the next wave hit. But the wave was waiting for her. Marco leaned against her locker, arms crossed, a grin tugging at the corner of his mouth. Not the smug grin she'd grown used to, but something different, softer, respectful even. Camila Santos stood beside him, eyes shining like she already knew a secret. Two more paramedics hovered nearby, phones in their pockets, but steady to blow up group chats the second Harper opened her mouth. So, Marco's voice was low, carrying a strange mix of disbelief and curiosity. Afghanistan? Harper froze, one hand still on the zipper of her jacket. She didn't answer right away, because what could she say? Yes, and invite the flood of questions she'd spent years avoiding? Or no, and make a liar out of herself when the truth was already sprinting ahead of her? Finally, she nodded once, small, controlled, like admitting it quietly might keep the walls from closing in. Marco tilted his head. How long? 2 tours, Harper said. Her voice sounded flat in her own ears. 18 months. And you never thought to mention that you were basically a battlefield surgeon? His tone was half accusation, half awe. Harper shrugged, pulling the jacket tighter around her shoulders like armor. It didn't seem relevant. She let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. That was a different life. Different life? Camilla stepped closer, the warmth in her eyes cutting through the clinical chill of the room. Harper, you saved that man's life tonight. His kids still have a dad because of what you did. How is that not relevant? Harper opened her mouth, searching for an answer, but the door swung open before she could find one. Dr. Collins stepped in. The chatter evaporated like smoke. Even Margot, who never shut up, went silent. Colin's face was pale, the shadows under his eyes deeper than before, but he was standing steady now. No IV, no nurse hovering behind him. Just the chief trauma surgeon, framed by the door, looking straight at Harper. Miss Lane. His voice carried across the room like a scalpel slicing through skin. A word. The bottom dropped out of Harper's stomach. This was it. The reprimand, the firing, the call to licensing boards, maybe even lawyers. She'd stepped so far outside her scope of practice tonight she could have built a new zip code. Doctor, I... Stop. Collins raised a hand without looking at her. Just stop. He didn't yell, didn't scold. That almost made it worse. His calm was a scalpel too. Precise, deliberate, cutting her open without blood. He crossed the room, his gaze weeping over lockers, walls, anything but her face, as if he needed time to line up the next incision. When he finally spoke, his voice had shifted, low, reflective, the tone of someone about to drop a truth heavier than any reprimand. I've been practicing medicine for 23 years, Colin said, stopping near the narrow window that looked out over the parking lot. Rain streaked the glass behind him, wrapping the city lights into smears of white and red. I've seen residents freeze during their first cut. I've seen nurses panic during codes. I've seen attending physicians, good ones, make mistakes that cost lives. He turned, looked straight at Harper. What you did tonight? He paused, the silence stretching so tight you could hear the hum of the vending machine. It was extraordinary. Not because you wanted glory, not because you thought you were invincible, but because you acted when no one else could, and you did it without hesitation, without ego, without fear. Harper swallowed hard, but the lump in her throat didn't move. I just did what needed to be done. No, Collins shook his head slowly, like a word offended him. You did what very few people on this planet could do, and you did it flawlessly. For the first time all night, Harper broke eye contact. He stared at the floor, at the scuffed linoleum tiles, at the rain dripping from her boots. The weight of his words didn't feel like praise. It felt like a responsibility settling on her shoulders, heavier than any rucksack she'd ever carry. Colin stepped closer. His voice softened, but the words hit harder than ever. The man you operated on? He's awake, stable, talking to his wife and kids right now. Collins let that sink in before adding, if you hadn't acted when you did, Harper, we'd be planning a funeral. That's not an exaggeration. Silence stretched again, except now it felt like something alive, thick, breathing, waiting for someone to break it. Finally, Collins did. So, here's what's going to happen, he said, his tone shifting from gentle to surgical steel. Metro General is launching a new cross-training program for emergency personnel, advanced trauma skills, crisis surgery protocols, and I want you to help build it. Harper blinked. Sir, I'm just a paramedic. No, Collins said, his jaw set like stone. You're the bridge between two worlds, battlefield and bedside. And if what happened tonight taught us anything, it's that we need that bridge more than ever. Marco let out a low whistle. So, does this mean Harper Lane's getting a promotion or what? Colin smiled, a thin, tired curve of lips that still managed to hold warmth. It means Harper Lane is going to train the next generation of paramedics to do what she did tonight. And maybe, just maybe, we won't ever be caught that unprepared again. The room blurred for a second as tears threatened to break loose. Harper blinked them back, forcing herself to breathe slowly, even controlled, just like in the trauma bay. She'd spent 6 months feeling like an outsider, like the rookie who didn't belong. Tonight didn't just change that. Tonight, it rewrote the story completely. 3 days later, a photo hit social media. Harper's hands still streaked with dried blood, holding the patient's chart. The caption read, "Not all heroes wear white coats." The comments exploded. News anchors called. Interview requests piled up. Harper ignored them all. Because the hero wasn't the point. Ego wasn't the point. The man's kids hugging him in a hospital bed. That was the point. And for the first time in months, Harper knew exactly who she was. Not just a paramedic, not just a veteran, a protector, a teacher, a lifeline in human form. And this time, she didn't whisper it under her breath. She owned it. 6 weeks later, the room smelled like antiseptic and new beginnings. Harper stood in front of a classroom, rows of fresh paramedic recruits staring back at her. Some wore crisp uniforms that still smelled like laundry detergent. Others looked seasoned, tattoos peeking from sleeves, but all of them shared the same wide-eyed anticipation. Emergency medicine isn't about being a hero, Harper said, her voice steady. It's about staying calm when everything else is falling apart. It's about remembering every patient has a family, someone who needs them to make it home. She paused, letting that hang in the air. Her hands rested on a desk, fingers brushing over laminated sheets of surgical diagrams. These were the same techniques that had once been a secret, the same skills that changed everything 6 weeks ago in Trauma 3. And now she was passing them on, not because she wanted glory, but because lives depended on it. The first class ended with polite applause, but Harper barely heard it. Teaching never felt easy, but it felt right. Later, walking through the quiet halls of Metro General, she slipped the letter from her jacket pocket. The paper was creased now, edges softened from being opened too many times. She read it again, even though she could recite every word. "Miss Lane, because of you, I was there when my daughter was born. You didn't just save my life, you gave my family back their future. David Rodriguez." Just 2 lines, that was all. But they hit harder than any medal she'd ever received. She folded the letter carefully, tucking it into the inside flap of her locker, right beside a photo of her army unit and her paramedic class, past and present, side by side. Her radio crackled, Unit 17 respond, Priority 1, motor vehicle accident, multiple injuries. Harper smiled faintly. Some things never changed. The streets still called, and she wasn't ready to give them up. Not yet. As she pushed through the ER doors towards the waiting ambulance, her boots striking the tile in a steady rhythm, one thought carried her forward, clearer than ever before. Heroism isn't about a rank or title. It is about what you do when seconds matter. She pulled the radio to her mouth, voice calm and certain, Unit 17 responding. And for the first time, Harper didn't feel like a rookie anymore. Everyday heroes are all around us.